saying in a letter Democrats are deeply concerned by what she calls the majority's efforts to curtail the House Intelligence Committee's Russia probe and its overall failure to address Russia's meddling in the 2016 election. The Russia cloud hanging over the White House as the president is at odds with much of the world over his controversial decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, prompting a harsh rebuke at the UN.
They take hundreds of millions of dollars and even billions of dollars, and then they vote against us. Well, we're watching those votes. Let them vote against us. We'll save a lot. We don't care.
128 countries voting to approve a resolution effectively demanding the Trump administration withdraw its decision, 35 abstaining and just 9 others voting against it, even after this direct threat from Ambassador Nikki Haley.
And we will remember it when so many countries come calling on us, as they so often do, to pay even more and to use our influence for their benefit.
Haley later inviting representatives of countries who voted against the resolution to a reception, thanking them for their friendship to the United States. Here we are now down at the very end of the year, and we're learning of another departure from the Trump administration. Deputy Chief of Staff Rick Dearborn expected to leave early next year. Still no plans for the president to give a formal, on-the-record, last end-of-the-year news conference today. However, there will be an opportunity or two for him to answer questions from reporters anyway. Allison, Bill, back to you.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much. Let's discuss it. We want to bring back in CNN senior political analyst Ron Brownstein and CNN political analyst Josh Green. Great to have both of you. So, Ron, you're hearing more and more Democrats speak out now with some anxiety that they believe that Republicans, that there's actually sort of a united effort to not only undermine Robert Mueller, but to somehow shut down the Russia investigation. So Joe just read for us that portion of Nancy Pelosi's letter. They're trying to appeal to people like Speaker Paul Ryan to do something about this to make sure that the president can't fire Robert Mueller. But the president has said over and over again that he's not planning to fire Robert Mueller. So where does that leave us?
Well, I think, obviously, as you say, the president has said that he is not firing Robert Mueller, but there has been a growing kind of a chorus in conservative media and even in portions of the House Republicans who have essentially, creating this argument that Mueller is inherently biased, the investigation is fatally infected with bias. And I think even more profoundly, as we saw in this hearing yesterday, the hearing with McCabe, trying to create this narrative that any Russian collusion or Russian involvement in the 2016 election is only part of a larger story that includes the argument the FBI was maneuvering and conspiring against Trump. And all of this, I think, is a preemptive action to try to create more of a buttress under the administration if, in fact, Mueller concludes that the president or others stepped over the line in obstruction of justice or in any other way.
Those sources who watched, some folks told us who were there for the McCabe testimony, that he seems to corroborate James Comey's testimony that the president asked for this this loyalty pledge. As Allison mentioned, Josh, you know, the White House has been sort of adamant that we're not going to fire him. But listen to the way Sarah Huckabee Sanders describes Mueller's investigation.
I want to be very clear and make sure that I address Senator Warner's concern for the 1,000th time. We have no intentions of firing Bob Mueller. We're continuing to work closely and cooperate with him. We look forward to seeing this hoax wrap up very soon.
This hoax wrap up, that is a rather passive-aggressive description of it. If they're not going to fire him, do you see a concerted effort to undermine him, Josh?
Well, look, she said they have no intention to fire him, and that certainly opens up a broad avenue to turn around and fire him later on, you know, if Republicans decide that circumstances warrant. But the obvious goal here, I think, is to impugn Mueller's credibility, to undermine the investigation, to turn this into every other political issue in the country and make it about a partisan divide, about, you know, Republicans versus Democrats, about stoking these tribal feelings so that if Trump or somebody in Trump's inner circle is indicted, or if Mueller comes forward with evidence of collusion, that they can wave it off and say, oh, look, this is just a partisan issue. It's not really true.
Right. I mean, there you go. I mean, Ron, it's much more subtle than firing him. It's just tainting whatever the outcome is when he finally does release his conclusions. Here's where the public opinion polling is right now on this. In the latest CNN poll, 47% of Americans approve of the way that Robert Mueller is handling the Russia probe. 34% disapprove. Does that comport with what you would call President Trump's base, or what do you see in the numbers?
Well, yeah, and to really underscore your point, and Josh, as I said, I mean, I really think this is more about impugning the, trying to delegitimize any verdict that, or any conclusion that Mueller and the special counsel's office reaches, and also, in essence, to say that the FBI itself was so biased against now President Trump that the decision to remove Comey was justified on those grounds. I mean, and kind of stoke the tribal loyalties in that way. But yes, I mean, you know, most Republicans have recognized through this year that at a moment when you're dealing with a president starting with a disapproval rating around 60%, a double-digit generic lead, leading the generic ballot for Democrats in 2018, that firing Bob Mueller would be a catastrophic political mistake. Those voices in the Republican Party have gotten quieter lately, and those on the kind of the edge, both in the kind of the conservative commentariat and even now into the House, you know, basically arguing against Mueller, have gotten louder. And what this poll does is just offer a reminder of the risk that will be involved if the president misinterprets that kind of chatter as indication that there will be broad public acceptance of such a move, because clearly I think it would be stirring an enormous backlash both within the kind of the elected officials and within the public more broadly.